Okay, so yep, so far that's what I have discussed. So everybody should be having feedback on the first submission, which is the UI module, and then work or carry on working with the next module, which will start today. And then of course you can have, or your deadline will be probably next week or something. We'll figure out. One question. Is the use of Angular routing service mandatory? Yes, if you are not mandatory, but yeah, it's required actually. So if you are creating a single page applications, and you will go through routes different, or if you want to change the views, you can have the routes, and that's where the route provider, not the routing service actually, the route provider will help you. We will see what is all about in case of Angular. So let's leave that as of now. Another question is, it's related to Angular again. So isn't loading partials from external files inefficient? Nope, because once they are loaded, Angular will cache them. So at least for the one part, if they are loaded from the templates, Angular will cache it for the duration of the application, so they will never be loaded again. So don't worry about being inefficient. Okay, so in the meantime, I think yep, today we had a quiz as well. Let's see what is the status of that. Oh boy, this new Google Drive stuff is so slow. So I have 14 responses, which is almost similar to what I got last time. Is anyone here who is still submitting the quiz? Do you have any questions, Sudhaj?
No, I'm still submitting.
Oh, hold on. Yeah, now submit.
No, I don't have any questions. I just want to say
Okay,
that
thanks.
I'm here to submit.
Okay. So yeah, it's still open, kind of. There were almost around 10 questions or so, and then we'll just go and figure out the solution. So are you working or are you submitting right now, Sudhaj?
No, I still have to finish a few other assignments which are still pending. I joined the training a bit late.
Okay,
So,
okay.
I'm finishing the previous one. So.
Okay, anyway, so I'm gonna discuss the answers for the JavaScript, and let's see what happens. So the first question, what are the data types used in the JavaScript? List 5 of them with examples. So it's very easy: string, number, boolean, null, undefined, object, array, whatever. So they're all the data types. And it's easy. What is the difference between undefined and null? So undefined, well, it is usually set by JavaScript when you don't initialize your variable. Null, you can set it to variables programmatically as well. Well, both of them can be set programmatically, but just to have difference, I would like I don't touch or I don't assign undefined value or undefined to a variable programmatically. I just keep it for the JavaScript. For me, whenever I want to null something or nullify or just empty out something, I just put that to null. That's easier. So again, and yeah, the definition, you already have it. probably in the slides as well. Undefined means a variable has been declared but not yet been assigned a value, something like just doing that, and here the value would be undefined, and again that's the task of the JavaScript. In case of null, it is emptied by setting the value to the null. Yep. What is the difference between equals to and strictly equals to? So again, here you are just checking for the comparison regarding the values. Here you are checking for the comparison with values as well as the data types as well. So that's why it is stricter than this one, or this is more strict than this one. Name any two JavaScript functions which are used to convert non-numeric values into numbers. So of course parse float, parse int, or even the number constructor can be used, but yeah, I was asking about two functions. How do we check if a variable is an object? Well, just check the type of and then compare it against a string object. A closure is a stack frame which is not deallocated when the function returns. So yeah, it's kind of a technical definition for your closure. So it involves much more description than just having closure is in a function. So yep, this is stack frame which is not deallocated when the function returns. What is event propagation? So it's all about your event bubbling versus event capturing, and we all know how to what is the definition or what is this behavior and why this behavior. Why? Because of course Microsoft and Netscape had different views on which event handler to execute first, the parent one or the child one, and that's why two different ways or approaches for event propagation. How to add and remove properties to JavaScript object at the runtime. So give code snippet. So if you want to add some property, I can't see it properly here, so I will just give some example. So something like you have an object, when the runtime, whenever you want to add some random property, what you can do here, you can just some prop equals to some value, and that's how you can add it or add a property on the runtime. So next time we'll do I just made it an array instead of an object. And then if you try to do object, of course you have added that property. Now for some reason you want to remove that property, just use delete keyword on that property. Something like this. Yep, it will be removed, and then if you try to print it now, you have an empty object. Okay, there was some raised hand from someone. I don't know who he was. So if you have any question, go ahead. Yeah.
It was just about the creation of array and object. So we just
Yeah.
cleared the array.
Yep. So I forgot and I created the array. Long day, man, long day. What do you understand by this keyword in JavaScript? How can you change the reference to this inside a function? So of course this keyword inside a function always refers to the object where your function is assigned as a property or assigned to a property, right? So this is the meaning of that. If the function is global, then of course this will refer to the window object. If your function is assigned to a particular object on a property, then this keyword will refer to that particular object. Now how can you change the reference to this inside a function? Well, you have two options, whether you can use apply or call. In both cases, the first parameter that you pass, which is the object reference, well, you can use that, and then whenever you use this inside a function, now it will start referring to the object reference that you have passed as part of call or apply function. So yep, that's how you can change it. Next question, what would be the output of the following statements? And the following statements are here. So, and really, okay. I should have just made it true or false. Okay, so we have object 1, same property and some value sign same, and then object 2, same property and the same value. Now you are trying to compare if object 1 is equals to object 2, and the answer is false. And the reason, okay, probably that's why, because I have asked for the reason as well. So yep, because an object is equals to only itself. Interesting. False, because both are completely different object. It would be true in case of course this will be true. The reason is just simple. If when you are creating two different objects like this, well, let's say you have one object like this and you create same object or another object but the same property in value. Well, the reason is both have different memories in the, or they have different memories, of course, and that's why when you try to compare, even with the single equals to, it will fail. Okay, because they both are having different memory location. Now if you have, let's say you declare one object 3 and then refer it at the same memory location as object 1, and now if you are trying to compare object 1 with object 3, then of course it will be true because both are pointing to the same memory location, just like your Java object or a C object. So yep, that's how the answer for that question was the false. And the reason is when we create two objects, although their properties and values are similar or same, they are having different memory locations, and that's why they cannot be same. So this is why it will return false. If you just create one more object and then point it to, let's say, object 1, in that case both are referring to the same memory location in the memory, of course. So in that case they will be true. So yep, this is all about your JavaScript quiz. If you have any question, let me know regarding the quiz in JavaScript or anything in particular. Otherwise we can just finish jQuery within half an hour or so, and then we can start with backend. Okay, so let me just give you a recap what we did yesterday. So we started with actions in jQuery, or methods, or jQuery functions, whatever you call it, and of course they are defined only for jQuery. They are not available on the native DOM API or other library. So you have actions related to CSS, kind of add class, remove class, toggle, has class, or you can also write, or you can also set properties directly onto the object or element just on their style property or style attribute, and for that you can just use the CSS action. Then we talked about, okay, how to get height and width of an element. So of course you can get it, or what about the position of that element with respect to window or document, and position of element with respect to its parent. So both of them can be used as a get or as well as a setter. Then what about the DOM manipulation? So of course if you pass an HTML string, that will be converted into the equivalent DOM tree. If you want to append or attach a newly created DOM element to an existing DOM element, then of course you can use append or prepend if you want to maintain the parent-child relationship. But if you want to maintain the sibling relationship while adding the newly created DOM element to the existing one, and in that case just use after and before. HTML, which is much bigger than, or it is similar to what you have the inner HTML, which is native to the JavaScript. This is the same. If you don't pass anything, it will return you the content of the div as the HTML string. If you pass some HTML string, the content of this selected element will be replaced by whatever you pass. Of course, if you want to empty out some element, you can just use empty. So everything inside this div will be cleared and this div will be empty now. Then of course if you want to add some attribute to an element, you can use attr, and then of course if you don't pass the value, it will work as a getter. If you pass a value, then it will be, of course, kind of a setter name property and the MyID value for that name property or name attribute. And then, of course, if you want to set multiple attributes in one go, one line, you can just pass the object. Again, a JavaScript object, and ATTR will handle that. Again, we have remove ATTR to remove the attributes from that particular element. And what about handling the properties specific related to checked, disabled, value, selected, draggable, required, all these properties that you have on the elements, or specifically the input elements, input DOM elements. In that case, just use prop and then checked true or checked false, depending on what is your requirement. If you don't pass the true or false, it will act as a getter and it will return whether it is selected, checked, just in true and false. But if you have added your own property, you can use remove property there as well, and then of course it will be removed. Never use remove property on the existing or the native properties like this, otherwise you will be removing them from the DOM element and you will never get it back. Other ones are just like removing the element itself entirely from the DOM, or just setting or getting text of that particular HTML element. If you want to get the value of the input, then of course use the val. If you want to clone an existing element, DOM element, just use clone. If you want to clone its event handlers as well, associated event handlers here, just pass true to that, and then you will be having a copy, a clone of that element, including its event handler in this case. Now again, there are two other methods for handling the data related and attached to that particular element. So of course you can use data to set, or if you don't pass the value, then of course it can be used as a get. The interesting thing about data that it is normalized to handle your HTML5 data attribute as well, so you don't have to pass the entire name of the attribute. Like if your attribute is data-xyz, just pass xyz here, and jQuery will take care of to find out whether you have HTML attribute with the name data-xyz. If it is there, it will return the value from there. And of course you can remove the data attached via data call. Then if you want to reduce the set of reduce the collection or the number of elements in the jQuery object, then of course you can use filter on an already selected jQuery object, and then of course here you are saying, okay, give me the li elements which are at even place in this. The map one, which is interesting, it is used to execute a particular function for each element in the collection written by this, and then return something from each function call, and then so ultimately it will return you an array having all these values for all of the elements in this checkbox. So again, it's map, pass each element in the current match set through a function, producing a new jQuery object containing the returned values. Then how to handle events in case of jQuery. So of course you can use on to add event handlers or off to remove them. If you want to trigger events, then just use trigger. Now instead of using on and trigger and off, there are, well, not off, there are other ways as well, so which are just like the shorthand methods for most of the events. So you can directly use click and pass your callback there. So that's your shorthand method, and there are lots of shorthand methods that you can see after clicking here. There are a few specific form events as well, like focus, change, blur, all these things. And of course the important one is the submit. Then we talked about chaining. So instead of asking your jQuery to return or find out that particular element 3 times because you want to execute 3 functions, what you can do is you just ask once and then apply 3 functions on the same selection or on the same object via this chaining. So this is important to make it more efficient. Plus, of course, this code is shorter. The important thing to remember is the execution is from left to right. So first this will be selected from the DOM, then this action will be applied, then this action, and then at the end this action. Okay, then we started talking about AJAX in jQuery. So one of the important feature, and why jQuery is more popular, because they have handled AJAX very well, and they have provided so many options for you, so you don't have to do other things which were required if you are using plain JavaScript for the AJAX. Anyway, so yeah, there are a lot many options that you can have, and these are just the basic ones. If you want to read all of the options, you can go here and just go to the basic ones, or the main Ajax function, and then you will see there are lots of other functions as well, or other properties, other options. So we saw the example yesterday of calling or making an Ajax request via jQuery. So of course you can do that one. The most important thing is regarding the cross-browser issues. So of course, just like what we have the same origin policy in case of JavaScript, here as well, or in any case, whenever you're making an Ajax request, irrespective of the library that you are using, you will not be able to make a call to any other server except if you are using JSONP or CORS, and then that other servers is allowing you to have the response, meaning it is sending the access control allow origin header in the response. Otherwise you cannot access any server like this. So this is the example of JSONP. You just have to provide the data type equal to JSONP and a callback parameter which is specific to the server that you are asking for. And then I'm just passing the data here, some function, logging it. That's it. That's your JSONP. You don't have to do anything. jQuery will handle all the task of mimicking JSONP internally. And then here we go. So we'll start with utilities right now. I think there should be what, 4 slides or something. And then after that we will start talking about our backend application. So the first one is each. So we have for in loop, we have for I equal to 0, I less than length, I plus plus. Right? Two types of for loops. We have while loops. So we have a variety of loops. Now sometimes you want to iterate over the normal array and object. Sometimes you want to iterate over selection or the elements written by the selection or the jQuery object. So there are so many varieties, right? So here jQuery said, okay, we will give you one function which you can use for any collection. So in this case, you are using it for the array. Then in next case, you can be using it for the object itself. Or in the next case, just use it for your jQuery object. So everything, so that's why they have normalized it. And then you can pass any collection here and the next function which will be executed for each of the element of that collection. So in this case, you are passing an array and then saying, okay, loop over this array and then execute this function for each of the element. And what are the parameters that you have in the function? The first one is the index, the next one is the value. So if you try to execute it, of course, you will be able to get the index from this array and then the value. Now, if this collection becomes an object or it's an object, then of course, the parameters will be key and the value. There is nothing called index in case of object. These are the keys and the values. So of course, you can do something like this as well. Now, another thing, you have to use has on property here as well internally if you have changed the prototype of either array or object itself. So again, it doesn't help you in that case while for checking for the has on property. And as I said probably somewhere before as well, that this has on property, someone asked John Resig, the creator of jQuery, to include the implementation of has on property in this jQuery each, and he said, well, I won't do that because you shouldn't be updating prototype of the native objects or native data types like arrays, objects like this. So that's why. But in some reason, to set some polyfills, you have to modify the prototype of the object as well as array. For example, filter function is not available in IE8. Also, index of function is not available on arrays in IE8. So different things. So for that, you have to be precise, or you have to be aware that you have to use has on property whenever you are trying to loop through object and array. So I still go with the traditional for loop for the array because length property is not on the prototype. It is specific to that particular array object, so you don't have that issue. In case of object, you can go with this approach as well, but again, use has on property. So let me just give you demo for this. Copy paste, run, that's it. And it's very easy when you understand what would happen. Yep, that's what would happen because you didn't include jQuery. So index and the value, that's what we are printing here. As long as it is an object like this, well, you will be looping, or your function will be having key and value. So flammable, inflammable, whatever. Okay, so that's the for each, and again, not the for each, jQuery each, and this is the utility function available here. Why I'm saying utility? Because you are not asking for some action and you don't have any selector here. What next? So if you want to see whether you have an object inside an array or some value inside an array, you can use inArray. Why you have this inArray? Why can't we just have why can't we just use the index of function which is already available in the array, native array? Well, again, the reason is support for IE8 or 6 or 7. So that index of property function on arrays is not available in IE8, 6 or 7. So in that case, this is good and it will take care of that thing. So for example, the format is, or the syntax is, you call inArray, you pass the value, and you pass the array where you want to check for that value. So for example, you have this ARR array, which is some number and some string. You can check whether John is available in array, then of course it will return you the index. If it is not available, it will return you -1, just like index of. But this is a little better if you are trying to support IE8 or 7 or something like that. So this is in array. The next one is empty object. So of course there is no way in JavaScript to figure out how many properties do we have in case of the object. To figure out whether the object is empty or not, well, depend on this function from the jQuery and ask whether the object is empty or not. So for example, here the object is just empty. Just send it or just pass it to this method and it will return true or false depending on whether object was empty or not. But remember, as soon as you modify the prototype, this will start returning true, false, even though your object is empty, but you have added prototype property, or you have updated the prototype of the object and now it becomes part of this object somehow, just like in the for in loop. So it will start returning you false. What about whether you want to check whether a property or a variable is an array or not? So just use isArray. If you want to do it with the pure JavaScript, then of course this is what you will be doing to check whether it is an array or not. So it's a small nice method that you can always use. What about the map? So again, what we had previously, I think few slides back, was another map actually. Where was it? Actions, events, filters, here. So here we were mapping a function on each of the element from this jQuery selector, right? And then our parameters were index and the DOM element, because we were dealing with the DOM elements at that time. Now if you want to map on a general collection like an array or an object, well, you have function for that, and which is map. Does the same thing. Instead of having a selector, now you can pass your array or object here and then your callback, and the first value will be the element and the second will be the index. Okay, and if it's an object, then the first value will be the value and the second argument will be the key. So again, it's the same thing. Instead of using a selector, now you can pass your native array or object here and it will do the same thing what the map was doing before, applying this callback for each of the element here in this collection and returning an array with the values written by this callback. Then even the older browsers like IE8 and 6 and 7, they don't have trim on string. So usually you have string, JavaScript string have a trim function or trim method, which is just to wipe out or remove the spaces, trailing and the leading spaces. So yep, the trim method is not supported in IE8 or earlier version. So for that there was a jQuery version, which is still there. So this is interesting. So this is the make array, and what it will do is it will convert an array-like object, which is your jQuery object, into proper or true JavaScript array. And many times you need that. So for example, I'll just have it like this. So if you, let's log something, nothing but a jQuery selector including P and H1. So if you are asking for this such values, then of course you will see it's an array, but still it is a array-like object because it has some other properties as well. A normal array would just have the elements and the length property, and of course the prototype of array. That's it. But here things are different. So how to get the native array from here? So just say something like $.make array and pass that jQuery object into here. And then what you can do is, let's say console.log jQuery.make array. Just pass the elements, and that's it. So now you will be having a proper native array instead of no other properties of the jQuery. So just have the objects, 1 to 3 indexes, length, that's it. That's your native array. What were you having before? Of course, these values, some context property, some previous object property, some selector, different things. And also the object, or the prototype was of the object. Here your prototype is of the array, so that you have access to all these array functions which are natively available. So that's how you can have, or you can create or convert a jQuery object into the true JavaScript array. One question, is the prototype property the same as proto? Nope. So here this non-standard property underscore proto, and then again 2 underscores, is to refer to the parent, or to indirectly refer to the parent, and this is not the standard, so never depend on this one. In some browser this may not be available. I have seen this only in the Firefox and Chrome. So yeah, this is different than your dot prototype, which is available only on the function constructors, and this guy will be available on all the instances to do the reverse lookup. Then there's something interesting which is called extend, and there is one more called merge. So if you want to merge two JavaScript objects, then use extend. But if you want to merge two arrays, use merge. So don't be confused with the naming. Both are used for merging, but extend actually kind of merges two objects, while merge function will merge two arrays. We'll figure out different flavors of that. Another question is, so what is the standard version of Proto? Nothing. It is not even specified in ECMAScript. It is just the way browser handles. It's probably something, and that's why they have implemented. I'm not even sure if it will be specified in ECMAScript 6 as well. So let's talk about extend first. And again, as I said, it is used to merge two or more objects together in the first object. So this is the extend syntax. The first one is an optional Boolean parameter. The next one is the target, and then you can have a list of objects. So let's start with the basics, or the basic example. You have two objects, obj1 equals to name, let's say this, age 19, and then address, and again it is some another object, I'm just gonna have city. I don't. And then zip. Let's say like this. So this is one object. And let's have another object actually. Let's submit object 2. I'm gonna remove this zip from here. Add zip here. Change the city. Well, just leave the city. Change the value to 25. Don't have the name property here. This is your object 2. Okay. Now let's say you want to merge object 1 and object 2 and create new object having object 1 merged, sorry, object 2 merged into object 1. So for that, what you can do is you can use jQuery extend on, because it is used to merge the objects. So let's say object 3 is equals to jQuery extend. Just pass the object 1 and object 2. And remember this. In this case, well, actually it won't even return anything. So in this case, you have the object 1. So all the properties of object 2 will be extended into object 1. So what is this extension going on? Or what are you talking about this extension? So let's just print the difference, or the object 1 and object 2 after the extend. So what we did, we created 2 objects having some common properties, having some different properties as well. For example, here zip is only available here. Let me put one more property which is not there. Phone or something like this, which is on the object 2. So how this extend will behave, let's see. So if you run it, awesome, spelling mistake. So we have 2 objects now after the proper spelling. So let's see what is the difference here. So this is the first object and this is the second object. So there will be no change on the second object, because as the syntax says, it is the object 1 where you will have all the changes. Object 2 properties will be more extended into object 1. So what is the extension? Well, the meaning of extension is, so in object 2, if you have any property like this which is not available on object 1, it will be added to the object 1, and that's why you see the phone on the object 1 now coming from the object 2. Or if the property is already there in object 1, the value will be updated from object 2. So of course in the end you will be having 25 set here because you are extending. So the extending meaning is, if you don't have property on object 1, it will be added from the object 2. If you already have the property, then the value will be updated from the object 2. So, or overridden, or whatever you call it. Overwritten actually, not written. So yeah, it will be overwritten via this. So we are good until here. So of course, and if the property is not even there in case of object 2, it will still be, it will keep untouched. It will be kept untouched. Okay. So we have phone, which is added a new property from here. The name is still there. The age is 25 because age was already there, but its value will be updated. Now what about this address, or the first level recursive object here? So we are good with the first level actually properties. What about the object at this level? Well, if you see, you may have thought, okay, the same rule should apply on the children as well. Well, not. So what it did actually, let me just get rid of this to make it more understood, to find more differences. So if it would have worked similar way at this level as well, then you would have zip added to here, and since city will be persisted, right? But no, this is not the case. So if you are using extend without passing the first optional parameter, true or false, which is for the deep copy, here you are saying, oh, here it is doing the shallow copy, meaning it won't care about any other level of the object. It is just caring about the first level. That's it. If the values are different like this, it will just get the entire object, put it here. right? So that's what it did. Usually, or according to our understanding or something like that, it should have added zip property on this level, and then your address would be city and zip here. But here you see just the zip, because what it did actually, it has copied the value from here and replaced whatever object you had. So this is a shallow copy, meaning only on the top level, on the first level of properties. That's it. What if you want to do the deep copy? So you want to have the same logic at any other deeper level of the objects as well. Well, in that case, just pass the first parameter as true. And now if you want to go there, the first level will still be the same. You have the phone, new property, name, existing property, age was already there, but the value is updated. But since you have passed the true, which will tell Extend to do that, do this merging or extending as at the deeper level as well. So of course, if you do that, then of course you see city, which was already there, is still kept there, and zip, which is a new property, it is added. The same rules will also apply if the properties are common, then the values will be changed. But again, you have to pass true to make sure that it is extending at the deep level as well, or is the deep copy. So again, most of the times this is what you have to do. Why do you want to just have the shallow copy? Most of the times you want a deep copy. So pass the first parameter true, and then it will be used like this. I have one question saying, what happened to the address here? If you do the shallow copy, which will be the case if you don't pass true, then entire value of the address, which is this entire object, will be taken from here and put it here. No merging if you don't do the true here. So for the deep copy, just pass the true parameter, the first parameter, and then it will be doing the true copy or the deep copy. Again, there will be no change on the object too. So remember this thing. Now, what if you want to, so here, what is happening, you are altering object 1 itself. What if you want to get the result of the extension into a new object? So what you can do is, or without touching object 1 and object 2. So there is another one, let's say object 3 is equals to this, and then here you can pass one empty object. So what it will do the true copy or the deep copy from object 2 to object 1, and whatever is the result, it will merge here, and then since it's an empty object, so it will have all the properties of that extension, and then it will return it to you. So without affecting object 1 or object 2. So let's print object 3 here. So the first one, still the same, address, age, and name, age, and address. Here, address, age, and phone, address, age, and phone, which is object 2, and your merge things will be in the object 3 now. So mostly, actually, this is what you want most of the times. So you can have something like this. So no change on object 1 or object 2, so we are safe. So that's how you can have it, okay? So this is for the extend. Now merging is simpler. So there's nothing called deep or something. It will always merge two arrays from into the first one. So of course you can have something like this, 0, 1, 2, 2, 3, 4, and then it will return you 0, 1, 2, 2, 3, 4. No checking whether the values are same or not. This is not the task of merge. So it's just merging plainly into and adding new elements. That's it. What if you want to get a copy of the array? Well, you have this way as well, where you just pass the empty array and then the old array, and you will have a copy of the old array now returned here, and your new array will be having a copy. But again, why do use jQuery merge? For this purpose, you can always use array.slice. Just pass 0, which is a native to JavaScript, so which is good. So again, extend for object, merge for arrays, and both are doing nothing but merging objects or array. Okay. So again, this is very important, the extend one. What else? So again, as I discussed before, when you have JSON string, you want to convert that into a JSON object, usually a JavaScript object, usually you go with json.parse, which is available in modern browsers. Just paste your JavaScript, not the JSON string, convert it, and then of course your obj will be having proper JavaScript object. But this JSON guy, this is not available in older versions of IE like 6, 7. So if you are still trying to support those, well, parse JSON will help you. This is of course cross browser, so you can pass string to this JSON string and it will take care of converting that into JavaScript object. So just a cross browser feature. What else? And then usually you have the parse XML as well, so you don't have to depend on some DOM parsers here. You can just get the XML string, use the parse XML, convert that into XML doc, and you can also use the same feature of or same selector or filter or find methods here as well, and then you will be able to traverse through that XML tree. So that's also can be done using parse XML. Usually you just use parse JSON, because in my professional experience I haven't really dealt with XML on the front end, because when I started with JavaScript, JSON was already there. So I directly jumped on that one instead of learning XML. Not learning actually, but using XML on the front end. Everybody knows XML. Okay, so yep, that's it for the jQuery utilities, and that's where the jQuery ends. This is one of the project for one of the batch, and this is the same thing which I showed you yesterday regarding the project map or something. So this is the project that we developed for one of the batch. When will we have the quiz? Quiz for what? jQuery? 18th, Friday. So that's the end of the jQuery. If you have any question regarding jQuery, let me know. Otherwise, I can start talking about your backend stuff after 10 minutes or so. So we can at least start a few things today, and then major portion we will do tomorrow. We have 2 classes for this. The question for Vinayak. Have you ever worked with the Java backend? Do you have understanding of Java? Or you were always in .NET? Oh, always .NET. Awesome. Did you work in Indian company? Oh, okay. Yeah, that is the reason. They force you to work on .NET for some reason. Probably because everybody in India loves Microsoft, especially the companies and technologies. Okay, then that's good if you have opted personally. Okay, so can we use something other than dollar for jQuery? Yes, you can. Remember your friend Ify? So what you want to use something else. So just have the Ify here. Pass jQuery keyword from outside, and inside whatever you want. Now what you want to select something, H1, log it. So yep, this is how you can put anything for the instead of dollar. Just put your name if that sounds good to you. What we did here, we said okay, jQuery, pass it to this local parameter or local argument, and then use it. So now every time you are using it, you are referencing to the jQuery. Okay. If you don't like dollar, just use something else. Okay, so let's have a break for 10 minutes or 9 minutes from now, and then we'll start talking about the project, what we'll be doing on the back end, and in the meantime I will figure out if my system is set up for that, which it should be. Let's see. So I assume most of or all of you have, most of you should have Eclipse now set up, MySQL as well, and Workbench installed, and plugin in the Eclipse and Java 7, right? That's what I asked. Let me see, workspace, do I have some place? Okay, let me create a new folder. So that's where we will be creating the workspace. How to install MySQL? Good question. Double click, next, install. Isn't that the case now? Because yeah, MySQL has tendency to change the installer every time, and then they just play some games there. Let me see. So this is your community edition that you go there, community server, go there and download for Microsoft Windows or any version that you have. Where do we have the exe? Here. Just click on the download, and then depending on your requirement, I would just go with this installer. Although it's 243, of course I don't have to depend on the network connection, which may be somewhat different. So yeah, just download it, install it, and it will ask for the configuration, which is default configuration for your MySQL. Just have it, and then it will start running there. So if you install MySQL, you will be having something like, assuming it's Windows, on Linux as well it will be similar. It's easier to install on Linux because now let's say you have Ubuntu, you can go to Ubuntu Software Center and then install it from there. So where is MySQL? Here. So I have the Workbench installed, because if you like the command line tool, then of course you can go to utilities, utility console, or as well as this command line client, and just your old way write all the commands manually, different things. Or you can always have this better looking GUI, MySQL Workbench. Again, it connects to the same server in your system, but this is much better than your command line actually. But if you have experience with working with command line like me, you can go and work with the command line as well, but too much time required for that purpose. So as of now I have this ready. Let me just start Eclipse. Kepler, and let's hit the workspace here. Okay. So I have a question from someone asking for, are you using XAMPP stack? Nope, I don't know PHP, I don't know Perl, so of course no XAMPP. I have Eclipse Juno and I couldn't install M2E for some reason. Should I upgrade, or it might be some other issue? I think Juno is just one version old than Kepler. You should be able to install M2E. I think I have installed M2E on even the older version, like Indigo and Helios. M2E comes installed in Kepler. Really? Let's see. So this is the Eclipse right now, empty thingy. Go to web, window, preferences, and Maven. So I have, oh, the embedded one installed properly. Okay. Okay, so there are two different versions. Okay, one is M Eclipse M2E versus M2 Eclipse. There are two plugins. So actually they were together and then they separated out. So one is M2E, the other one is M2 Eclipse, and I think M2 Eclipse is default in the Eclipse right now, but I'm still using M2E because, okay, sorry, this is different, not this actually. There is one which is by default in case of Eclipse is something else. So yeah, this is what I have installed, the M2E guy, and of course depending on your Kepler or depending on your Eclipse version, which I think you should just get it like this. There is no dependency on the version, so just have the first one actually update side. So this is M2E. There is something else similar. What was that? Maven plugin. So M2 Eclipse is of course the better one that I have found out. I can't seem to find out that one. Just use the M2E as of now. Oh yeah, this one. So the Maven Eclipse plugin, which is MEP, and M2E Eclipse, which I have asked, which is now M2E, are independent project now. Blah blah blah. Maven Eclipse plugin is no longer supported or something. They were stopped working or something. Yeah, so just install M2E even if you have some native thing available in Eclipse itself. So I have the workspace, empty workspace. How many of you have any understanding of ORM framework? Object relationship, relation mapping, or Hibernate to be more easier, or JPA, more generic. How many of you have understanding of backend actually? How many of you have, or is there anyone who has not created any web app before? A normal web app that can be in Java or .NET, just some servlets, JSPs, or in case of .NET ASP something. Everybody knows how to write a normal small web app. Okay, looks like everybody has used J2EE then. Yep, so I just need to have understanding of about JSP and servlets. That's it. Which of course we will not even be using in this application. So I will talk about what we are gonna do. So even you can work with me, but today we will not be covering major issues, so you can just keep listening or watching it, and then later on today you can set up for tomorrow's big development task that we will be doing tomorrow. Today we will be just setting up. We don't have that much time, so we will be setting up a few Eclipse workspace, the database, the project, Maven, different things, which you can again see the video later tonight and then set up your own. So I have this batch June 28th workspace. So first thing, you will go to preferences and you will not have the server added to your system, and I assume that everybody has installed Apache Tomcat, so I should also have some somewhere. So yeah, it's usually on the 64-bit, it's usually on the program files, Apache Software Foundation, Tomcat. And since I'm still using Tomcat 7, so it will be something like here. Now how to add this to your Eclipse, because you have already installed in your operating system, you have to just add or refer, or you ask your Eclipse to refer here. Don't install a new Tomcat internally. So what you can do, just go to Window, Preferences, go to Server, and go to Runtime Environments. And here you will see nothing as of now. Just click on Add, and it will say okay, what type of Tomcat that you want to add, and that is the reason why I didn't ask you to use Apache Tomcat 8, because they don't have adapter for Tomcat 8 as of now. So I'm gonna go with Tomcat 7, which I have. Select that and click Next. Now it will ask you, okay, do you have 7 already installed, or you want to download and install now? So since we already have it installed, we will just pass the installation directory reference here. Go to Computer, see, usually it's in the program files, Apache Software Foundation, and the Tomcat 7, the top level directory. That's it. Just pass it, and then it will ask whether you want to use the Workbench default JRE, which is the only one that I have, the JRE 7. So just keep something like that. If you have so many JREs and your Eclipse is using JRE 6 and then you have JRE 7 as well, then make sure that you change the JRE here, or you can change the Workbench default JRE in this Java here. So okay, we are good as of now. Just finish, add it, so it is added here. How to change the Workbench default JRE? Go there and go to Install JREs. Just remove everything else and keep only one. So I have this default one for JRE 7. So far I have attached, or I have added the adapter for Tomcat 7 to my Eclipse workspace. I'm good. Now what we should do is just create one dynamic web project, because that's what we're gonna create for our or your project as well. So go to New here, and then dynamic web project. Just name it anything. I will just call restaurant. Okay. Now we are using Apache 7, so it is already there, and it is asking for what version of servlets API that you want to use. So usually in the companies, if you go and they have some legacy application, they will use 2.5 as well. Well, we are good, so we will just use 3.0. The configuration, well, you don't need any configuration. You are good. You don't need any EAR because it's a normal application, and again, you cannot run EAR on Tomcats and that's why it is disabled. Tomcat is just a web container, so it can have only the normal things like JSP and servlets. If you want to run EARs or entity, sorry, enterprise archives, then you have to get another server like WebLogic or WebSphere, or even Glassfish I think supports EAR, different things, different type of packaging. But there is another version of Tomcat I think which is something else, some open source project based on Tomcat to support EAR. But in case of Tomcat, no support for EAR. It is just a web container, meaning it will be executing your servlets and JSPs. That's it. So once we have it, next it asks, okay, where will you put all the Java code? So of course there is some SRC folder. Good. What about the context root? So of course this is the context root that I want, meaning the name of the application in the URL. We will explain it. Then where would you put all your web content, meaning your JavaScript, HTML, images, styles, everything. Anything other than your Java code will go into web content. And now it's asking generate web XML deployment descriptor. So for every J2EE application, this is important, web XML. Now with the previous version of Servlet API, it was always recommended, or not recommended, it was always there. Now with the 3.0, it is optional. But for our project, we will need web XML because we want to set up Jersey and Jackson things as well. So just click on this, you have the web XML deployment descriptor available, will be available in your project. Just finish. So after some time, a few seconds. So yeah, it will create the project. Now what I'm gonna give demo about. Okay, so it's already there. We'll talk about that later. So we have this dynamic web project. If you expand it, then you will have so many things there. Checks web service support, which I don't know why there is a default one, but still it's always there. Then you have the better version of your XML or web XML here. I never looked into this one. I will always go to the raw file. This is where the Java resources, where you will put all your Java classes or servlets or anything related to Java you will put here in the SRC folder, and anything related to HTML, CSS or everything like that you will put inside the web content. Now there are two directories already there in web content which are features or which are necessary for your J2EE project or application. So one is the webinf, where you can put some library or external jar files, or this is where you have the web XML which can be used to configure your web application. I usually go with the sources, and as of now you just have the welcome file list or something like that. So that's what we have. So the question is, I have downloaded a zip file of Apache Tomcat version 7 that you provided and extracted it. Okay, so just to be easier, I mean, you can always use the Tomcat in any format, whether for installation actually, whether it is a zip format, a tar format, or something exe. For just to make your life easier, install this exe one, this Windows Service Installer, so that you don't have to install other service manually, different things. You can just install the Windows Service Installer, which is again exe file, next, finish, that kind of thing. If you install zip, then you have to configure a few things, a few environment variables, and then of course if you want to execute it as a service, then of course you have to manually add it. Here, nothing, everything will be done by that exe. So just install using Windows Service Installer, actually. And same thing with the MySQL as well. Okay, so this is your web XML. Just keep it like that. Whenever we need libraries, if we need, we will put here. We will see. So this is your application as of now, the dynamic web project. Now I'm gonna add server that we have already added to this server tab. So no servers available because it doesn't know that we have already added our runtime environment to this workspace, but we have to include it here. So click on this server. It will already figure out, okay, you have already added Tomcat 7. This is this. Click next, and say, okay, include my project restaurant and deploy it. So what you do, you click this project, click on add and deploy it on this server, whatever you're gonna see here in the background a little while from now. Finish, and then of course it will add the Tomcat 7 server here, restaurant, you will see it directly there. Now one thing to note, if you have just installed your Tomcat 7, there will be a service running here for the Tomcat or Apache Tomcat. Right click it and close that service or exit that service, because that's another version of Tomcat which is running, or the same actually Tomcat, but it is already running on 8080 port. So if you have that running, you will not be able to start this or another instance of Tomcat on the same port. It will throw you some exception saying port not available kind of thing, or 8080 is already in use. So just to avoid that, close that service which you may be having here somewhere. If it's a Linux, then you have to use the PSaux and then kill that service. So you have it here, the Tomcat. I'm gonna just have the console. Yep, so I have the console now. I'm just gonna start the server and let's see if there is some issue with at least the smallest thing. And yep, it says 8080, and I forgot to tell you that even this guy, Mongoose, in my case is running at 8080, so I have to remove it or change its port. So here I'm gonna do that again. Start. Now it should be properly started. Yep. And for some reason Tomcat logs everything in RAID. They are not errors, they are simply logs, or even the info level, but yeah, it logs in RAID. So yep, it started, it synchronized, and there is nothing in your project as of now, so of course that's why it was very fast. Now just for the testing, I'm gonna put some empty file, JSP file. So right click on the web content, go to new JSP file. Just change the name to some index.jsp. That's it. And remember that you have to keep that into web content, not inside WebINF or MetaINF. Just use inside the index.jsp. Oh, sorry, web content. Name it index.jsp. Yeah, who cares? And for some reason they are still using the old 4.01 way. I never use it. I will use the HTML5. Something like this, just to test whether your server is running properly or not. I'm just gonna have something like this. Yep, whatever you want to do here, just do, and then right click on this one and go to run as on server. So right click on the index.jsp, go to run on server, and it will first time ask you, okay, do you want to run on this server? Of course we just have one server, and that's why we'll click always use this server when running this project. Don't ask us again. Next, it's already added. Finish. And then stupid Eclipse will run it in the local browser, which is even worse than IE. So close it, go to window, go to web browser and change it to Chrome or whatever you like. I will always go with, or just change it to default system web browser or Chrome in my case. So yeah, it will never start locally again. So again, right click on the index.jsp, run on server, and it will start in the Chrome now. So you see this restaurant thing here, this is the web context for the project, and if you want to change it to something else but still keep the same name for the project, well, just right click on the restaurant, go to properties. There will be some web content setting, not the content actually, web project setting. Change this context to anything else like this. Okay, and right now it is just R in my case. Yeah, restart server, remember my decision. So now, really, it didn't take up that name or what? For some reason it doesn't like to take any other name. Usually in the companies that you will have some different, of course, root or the context than the name of the project. So let's leave it like that. Okay, so this is the basic thing that we have developed so far. Not developed, just started working on this one. Now this is a dynamic web project. We have created this, so much stuff is already there. Web XML is already there, so many things, right? Now we don't want a dynamic web project actually. The reason is, since, okay, let me just start writing a few things. First of all, we will be creating RESTful backend. So what is RESTful backend? Oh, let me just give you some cool. Okay, so first of all, we'll be creating RESTful backend. So what is RESTful backend? So of course, any backend which can just accept some RESTful methods like, or some flavor of HTTP methods like get, post, delete, put, options, head. Of course, we will not be implementing everything. We are just worried about get and post. So what is get in that case? So of course, whenever you want to ask your server to return something to the client, whatever you are asking, just use get request. So for example, if you're asking, okay, give me the list of employees available on the server or in the database. So you are asking something, right? Or you are trying to get something from the server. So you are not changing anything on the server. You are just asking for giving you anything. So you can ask for a collection, or meaning a list of employees from the server, or a list or a particular employee detail from the server. So that is essentially the get request that you will be using. Now remember, standard says that you should never change the state on the server using get request, meaning you should never pass parameters which can change the state on the server. Meaning, let's say you are trying to add a new employee. You have asked the details on the UI in the HTML form, and then you are sending those parameters as part of a GET request to create a new employee in the database. Never use GET for that. Use POST, because standard, according to standard, the POST is used to change the state on the server, meaning try to add something on the server, to remove something from the server. So for that, whenever you are trying to change something on the server, use POST. If you are trying to ask something from the server, like get me the list of employee, get me that specific employee, this kind of things, use GET. What about the delete and put? So these two are related, or will do the similar thing, except in case of delete, it will entirely remove the access for that particular URL as well. So for example, your server is somewhere, localhost or whatever restaurant. I'm having the URL after this. So let's say you have a URL like, okay, get all employees, something like this. That is your endpoint on your server side, right? You will call this from your client, and then your server will figure out, okay, what class to execute in case of Java, or what to execute actually, and then return you all the list, right? Or you can have something like get, of course, these names are just your own preference, okay? It has nothing to do with the GET request. It is just that I like to name all these URLs properly. So for example, employee with a particular ID, like ID equals to something. So this is also a GET request. Now there is another way of passing this parameter as part of the path itself, which is called GET, same way. But instead of passing a request or a search string with the name of the parameter and the parameter itself, you can just pass the value like this and set up your backend to understand that this is the ID that you are sending from the client. So this is called the query param way, and this way is called the path param or path parameter. And of course these keywords are specific to the framework that I'm going to talk about now, which is Jersey. So what is Jersey? So since we are, so what is our objective here with this object or this project or this entire training session that we are covering? So we are having a project, right? All of you are having a project, restaurant reservation system, and as I said, the front end will be in the AngularJS. Now what AngularJS, or how does it interact with the server, is it will send JSON objects or JSON request to the server and expects JSON response from the server. Okay, so that's your AngularJS, the basic thing as far as the server is concerned for AngularJS, which is again an entirely front-end framework written in JavaScript and for JavaScript. Now so far we have all these companies running or having all these large back-end frameworks like Spring, Struts, and then which includes EJBs and different other things like JPA and so many things, right? Now AngularJS, what the difference between this AngularJS is? Well, we use Struts and Spring and everything and make our server heavy, right? We do all the processing there. The client, which is a browser, well, we just send some HTML from the server and it just displays with some styling. That's it. So that's why so far we have thick client and thick server and thin client, right? Or very heavy server. So we do all this processing on the server. Now you can think of having too much load on the server, and the reason is because we do all the processing on the server. Entire business logic is on the server. Of course, the data gathering, the connecting to the database, everything is on the server. Nothing is on the client. Well, these days your browsers are awesome, at least if you are on the modern browsers. And then you can put so much business logic on the browser itself if you have some better framework. So that's why we have this AngularJS, and this is a MVC framework for the front end. Now you can perfectly architect your application to put more of the business logic on the front end and just reduce the load on your server. So in our case, we will be doing exactly the same thing. We will be putting all of our business logic on the front end in the JavaScript. We will be managing what to show, what not to show, what to store, what table to show, different things here. But we still need data from the server side, right? So our server in this case will be stupid server or dumb server, meaning it will just accept request from the UI, request from the UI, and in our case the JSON request from the UI, and gather data probably from the web service, or in our case from database, and return the response or return the JSON response to the UI. That's it. That's what it is, the task of the server. No JSP thing, no ASP thing, nothing. So the only task for the backenders, accept request from the UI, and they will be of course get or post, and then process, or not the process, just collect the data required from the database, send it as a JSON response to the UI again. That's it. Everything else about how to render, where to render, what template to use, different things, it will all be taken care by AngularJS. So for that reason, we don't need any superfluous or any awesome backend framework like Spring or Struts or all these bigger names. We can just use AngularJS, put or offload our servers with processing, and then put all the processing on the client, because browsers are awesome these days, and even AngularJS has support for IE8 as well. So why not just use it? And so far I have been developing a brand new application in using the same technology that I'm talking about here, the Jersey, AngularJS, Bootstrap, SAS, everything, and this is for the GM showroom, General Motors showroom. So far they have this stupid client, not stupid company, some other company, which has been handling their showroom thingy for past so many years. So something like, yeah, select some GM car like Chevy, Camaro, all this different thing. This is not that good, plus they're not very advanced with their styling and so many different things, even processing of the data. So we have been, or my company got the project for the last 3 or 4 years or something, and we have been upgrading. So of course still we don't control this page, but we have been covering in the different phases. So the one that we have right now is the GM Family First showroom. So this was the last time that, or last year, that we created using AngularJS. And of course it is only locating your vehicle. And this time, or currently, I am architecting and I'm the lead developer and I am the everything for this new project. And once it is launched in September, you will see much better approach, Angular all around, and yeah, the looks will be awesome, much better than this stupid stuff. So yeah, and that's what I have been using in the company for this particular project. Of course, there will be upgrade for this. This is what we launched last year, and this is entirely in the Angular, and this is where I started learning Angular for the first time. Well, Angular is just here for the last 2 years, right? So I started 1.5 years back. So again, same application, but with different features, better pictures, better features, of the other features as well. So I will give you the link, or just go to gmfamilyfirst.com. After September, you will find one awesome application entirely in Angular. And the backend, what we have been using is the Jersey. And the reason is just this. We have told, okay, since there is no authentication or a security requirement in a showroom web app, because anybody can come and create or build their own vehicle, locate that if it is available on some dealerships, or request a code and different things, right? So of course AngularJS, we can use that framework entirely and then put everything on the client, separate out the data on the client and the views, different things. So it's very nice framework for that matter. And on the back end, we are using Jersey plus Jackson. So Jersey is used to develop this RESTful web API, or creating this dump server, meaning your server will be just accepting the RESTful methods like GET and POST and returning some JSON response. That's it. So for that, Jersey is awesome because it's very easy to create this sort of application on the backend, which are you just define some URL for a particular function on a class, and then in some cases you define the path parameters or the query parameters, and then whenever you have requests from this UI, your server will locate this particular endpoint, get the processing done there, and return the response. Now we are dealing with the JSON response here specifically, right? We need to accept the JSON request, we need to send the JSON response, because that's what we will be doing on the Angular side. So for that, Jersey uses a transformation library called Jackson. So again, there are lots of JSON transformation libraries, and you can find them all on json.org, like this. To scroll down, and depending on your language, so there are lots of libraries available for JSON transformation depending on your requirement. So if you have C, working with C, there are lots of C libraries as well. For Java, there is of course their own version, which is very slow. The one which is very fast is Jackson, which is used by Jersey as well. There is one by Google as well, Google JSON here, which I have used for some other purpose as well. And then for ASP or .NET, there should be something similar. So yeah, JSON for ASP, JSON utility class, different things for all the languages in the world, I think, or even PHP, Perl, and of course you don't need in case of if you are using Node, because it's JavaScript already. So for that purpose, yep, you can use it. Now, so let's talk about Jersey then. So again, the things are on jersey.net, I think. Not Jarset, it's Jersey, jersey.java.net actually. So here it is a framework just to develop your RESTful web services. And again, the benefit of using or offloading your servers and just put all the logic on the client is you get a free API, because you will be creating a free RESTful web API, right? And then later on, if somebody else, or you want to go mobile or to some other things like, or any hybrid app or even the mobile web, everything, well, you just have to change your front end or just accommodate your front end. Your back end will still be the same because it is a dumb back end. It is just accepting the request in the form of JSON and returning the JSON response. That's it. So you can use the same API, RESTful web API that you have created in any other requirement as well. So of course you get a free API because you created as part of this application. Now talking about Jersey plus JSON, of course. So if you go about the dependencies of the jar files, there are around 25 different jar files for this too dependency. If you want to include this into your web project, well, find out these 25 jars from different vendors. Something is from Google, some are from Jersey, some are from Jackson website, and few are from all other places. I tried doing that manually. It took me 6 hours and I couldn't figure out correct version dependency between all these different jars, because let's say if you are using Jersey version 2.8, Jackson version will be 2.4, some other library will be at some other version, no proper documentation, everything. So either go with that approach. If you could find all the jars together, then just keep it inside your lib folder. That's where you will put all the external jars for your web application, and the class path will all automatically be taken care by your web application. So this is one approach. And again, this is the bad approach. The reason is you don't want to manage all these dependencies manually. What if you want to upgrade to another version of or higher version of Jersey? In that case, Google search again, all these libraries, new version, dependency again, different things, and then collect all these jars, come back, put it here again. You, of course, don't want to do that. So what are the other tools that we have for dependency management? So we have Maven in case of Java. And of course, this is just for the dependency management. Meaning, you just provide a very simple configuration of what you need, and it will figure out, okay, what jars to include or from where to download everything, because they have that mavenrepository.com, not the .com, .org. Yep, like this, which is a central repository on Maven. And again, Maven is an Apache tool. So you can just search on, and then they have all the jars available. So even you don't have to do that. You just ask in a particular file, which is called the pom.xml. Pom.xml. It has a particular configuration. Since we are using Eclipse, we don't even have to create this file from scratch. And this file can be used to define the dependencies or define the jars that you want. And what Maven will do, you run the update Maven project, and then it will bring all these jars from different vendors, different places, and will put that into your class path. That's it. So that's why we'll be using Maven. The reason is you should never manually manage dependencies. Dependency. Okay. So this is what we're gonna do with this project. And again, the demo that I will be giving will be something like, I have one employee, or I think person table in the database, just one table. So we will get all people. We will get a particular person with, of course, some ID or something, whatever you pass from the UI. We will create new person or add person, which is again will be post. So this two will be your get request that I will be talking about. Then some post request, adding a person. So of course you will be sending data from your UI for the new person that you want to add to the database. And then we will write something for add person. then what? Edit person, I will just leave it to you, and delete person, something like this. So these are the operations that we will be creating our REST API for, and then you can mimic all this for your application or for your project as well with the same flows, same configuration. Just create some more classes for you. So this is again for the demo that I will be giving, and of course we will require a connectivity to the database as well. So we are using what? MySQL. So of course we will be having JDBC connectivity to connect our Java code to the MySQL database, and of course we will be writing queries, SQL queries actually I should say, or just the SQL should be fine. So yeah, that's our objective actually for the project, or for the demo, for the not the demo, for the 2-day session of the backend. Can I use Git in case if I am not able to install Maven? Nope. Git is a version control system, while Maven is a dependency management. Things are different. Okay. But if you can find a Git project which has all these dependencies, then you can just source, or you can just update or check out that particular project, and then you will have all these jars, put them into lib folder. So this is what we have, or what we'll be doing. Now the first task for us is to, so far we have this dynamic web project, right? No Maven support, nothing. If you want to put some jars here, you have to manually find those jars, put in the lib folder. We don't want to do that. So what will we do? We will convert this dynamic web project into Maven project. It should be somewhere. Configure. Yep. So right click on the project, go to configure, and go to convert to Maven project. When you click that, it will ask you a few things like, okay, what is the group ID? So usually it's the application. In our demo, just the application artifact as well. Application, then version, well, this is the initial version that we want, and of course it's a web application, so you want a var packaging. Okay, there are other packaging can be available depending on the type of the application, but as of now just var. So these are few initial properties regarding the Maven POM that it will create automatically for you. You just finish, and then it will convert this project into Maven project, and you will start seeing one M here in the logo. One pom.xml will already by default be there, and it is trying to build all these things. So that's what we did. We converted our dynamic web project into the Maven project. So you have this Maven project now. The pom.xml is already there, where you can define the dependencies that you want, and then which is here. So right now you will see there are 2 plugins already there, because this is your web project. So now your Maven will be using pom.xml to compile your web project, and then of course run it, something like that. So don't worry about this. We will add dependencies later on, probably tomorrow. Right now I'm just going to talk about creating database tables, so that you can have everything ready until we have this. Or I think we can continue till 9 o'clock, and then at least have this thing ready, and then tomorrow we can start coding or developing stuff. So we have converted into the Maven project. So this task is done, except we have to define the dependencies, which we will figure out. We don't have to worry about different jars. We are good. We know what we are trying to do here, creating a RESTful web API, which will support at least these methods, 2 gets and 3 post methods. And of course next task for us is to create the MySQL database for us, and then create at least one table, which is the person table or the people table or whatever it is. I already have the data. I will pass over those normal SQL queries. To create the table, to put some dummy data there. I should be here. So we will talk about this POM XML a little later. Let's create this database, and this is the create table command, and then just put some dummy data into the people table. So what we can do for that is create or open MySQL Workbench. and until it opens, what we are doing in this table is nothing. Name of the table is people, ID, first name, last name, email address, city, zip, phone, state, and then we are making that okay, your ID is the primary key and it is auto incremented, so you don't have to put or insert ID. It will automatically be taken care by MySQL itself. So this is your table, and here I have inserted I think 10 list of 10 people so that we have something to play with. So this is what we will be having for our table. So yep, Workbench has started. Local instance of MySQL, click on that one. Okay, and usually it asks for your password or username, password, root in my case. That's it. Oh, I already have this database in PeopleDB, so I'm gonna just remove this. Review, execute, drop now. Okay, some other tables, so I don't care. So first of all, you have to create the database, or in the world of MySQL it is called schema. So let's create this database from here, or new schema. Let's call it anything, people_db, database of people. So people_db, everything is default, apply. Yep, create schema, peopledb, apply, and then finish. So you have this empty database as of now, which is here, and you will see it has no tables, no views, nothing, no functions, no stored procedure, because you have just created it. The first thing we have to do is create the table. Now if you are creating by scratch, what you can do is create table, then you have this awesome wizard to give the column name, the data type available in the MySQL, all of this, do it manually, right? We don't have time for that. Okay, sir, close it now. So what, I already have that SQL query, I'm just gonna fire it. So it is here, create table, blah blah blah, all these different fields, make the primary key, or make the ID as the primary key, the default engine, auto increment start from 1, and char set UTF-8. That's what we want. Here, this is the name of the table. We have to append or prepend the name of the database as well. So people_db dot people. So, yep, we have this. Just execute, select, and then execute this. So it should say some message saying create table success, this one. So if you refresh your database now, you will have one people table, and right now there will be nothing. You can just right click on that one, go to select rows, and you will see everything is empty, because this is just the table that you have right now. Now you want to put some data. Now manually, if you want to do that, just use new row, put some ID, everything manually, and then create the table one by one, or rows one by one. Of course we don't have time. So what we'll do, we already have the queries. I'm gonna pass over this entire query to you, so don't worry about writing it by hand. So this is this is a list of I think 10 people, and we want to insert them into people table, which is inside people database. So yep, have it executed, and yep, so all the records have been inserted, 10 rows. Let's see what do we have. So if right click, select rows, and then you will see that we have list of 10 people inside our database, and that's it, where our database stuff ends. We have first name, last name, email, address to city, zip, phone, and state. So that's it. What we'll be asking from the front end: get list of all people, get a specific person, add a new person to the database, edit an existing person, or delete an existing person. So of course if you want to edit, then you will be sending some keys or some new data to edit right here as well, and that's why these three are the post requests, because you will be sending some data from the front end. Like to add a new person, you need to ask your user for all these details. To edit, you will still ask your user to give all the updates that you want to make, and then delete, I mean you can just send ID, delete this guy from the database, something like this. So yep, we will be having this now. But as far as the database is concerned, your task is done. You just have to know people underscore DB is the name of the database and the table is people. The different columns are just like here. So since I don't need MySQL as of now, I'm gonna close it. Any doubt here? It should be easy. Just creating a database table and then populating with some dummy data. Okay, so let's close it. Now our next task is to configure this pom.xml and define what we need, or figure out what we need actually. So I have a list of artifacts. So in terms of Maven, they are called artifacts. So we need all these artifacts. How much? 3, 5, 6. And of course these are for different purpose as well. So instead of, you don't have to write 25 jars individually, you just write what artifacts do you need. And you can find all of this on any website of Java. For example, Jersey you want to use, go to Jersey or click on dependencies here, and then they will show you the list of dependencies that you want, and this is the format that you need. And these people have 2.10 now. So they were having 2.8 when I started 3 months back with the current project, but yeah, now they have 2.10. I'm still gonna go with the older version, 2.7, because I'm not sure if it would need some dependency, because I haven't tested this yet. So of course you need few dependencies or few artifacts like this. The first one we have is the Jersey container servlet, which is for the Jersey. Then we have 4 different dependencies for Jackson, because we are using Jersey plus Jackson, right? So and these are 2 individual projects. So Jersey is from Jersey guys, not the New Jersey guys. And then there is one more called Jackson, which is from fasterxml.com or something. Yep, fasterxml Jackson, which is here. So again, these 2 are independent projects, but you can use them together. So we have how many? 4 for Jackson, 1 dependency for Jersey, and then since we are connecting to MySQL, you need a JDBC driver as well. So we will also use the same Maven to get the MySQL connector or MySQL jar. So we will just define these dependencies inside our pom.xml. And again, I'm gonna go and use the older version because I haven't tested the current version in all of the dependencies. So the first thing, now let's create the dependencies actually. So the plugin is, where is plugin ending? Here. So just after the plugins, we can create a new dependency object. Part. Yep. So there should be dependencies. Oh, I'm still inside build. That's why it's not giving me outside build. So here, just go dependencies, and then you will see like this. And this is of course the collection of dependencies. So one by one, we will start defining dependency. So the first one is, and again, if you don't know the structure, just copy paste from somewhere like this. And I will explain what is the individual thing. And then you can keep building on this stuff. So I have this one dependency in saying, okay, org glassfish Jersey core. Well, I don't need glassfish. I need something else. So what I need actually is this Jersey container servlet for that purpose. So group ID for that, well, it is already here. Org glassfish Jersey connectors, not this. Here, Jersey core. What I have copied here? Okay, yeah, this one. Jersey containers from here. And then to Jersey client as well. Well, we are not using client, so we don't need this. We just need this dependency. So I'm just gonna copy this, come back here, and just change the version which we will be working with. Okay, and then again, since we are already using 3.0, so we don't need to use this part, so I can get rid of this. And yep, this is Jersey container servlet that and I'm gonna use 2.8 here because that's what I have tested and it works properly. Last time I think I started working with 2.9, it didn't work that well, so I'm not gonna go into that one as of now. So this is what you have done for the Jersey. Right, now you need to find out the dependencies for JSON, JSON annotation, JSON data bind, and JSON JSRS JSON provider. So what you can do is you can go to that Maven repository, something, and just search here. For example, you need JSON, right? Anything which starts with JSON actually. So what we need is data bind and JSON core, JSON annotation, and JSON JSRS. And then again you will see there are so many versions available here. What you have to use is 2.3.2 because that's what I have tested, which was available in March. And then again for everything like this, the same version, so 2.3.2, go there, copy this dependency like this. So the first one is the core. Where is core? Here, 2.3.2. So of course this is your core is here for the JSON. Then we need what else? Data bind. What is next? Okay, annotation. The order doesn't matter actually, it just that I have. So this is your annotations. What else? We need data bind here, so I can quickly copy it. And one more thing, JSON JSRS JSON provider, which is this 2.3.2 and just this one. So we have this, let's format. So we have all these dependencies in place as of now. And then yeah, for the MySQL we need one more because we want to connect to MySQL database. So let's have, what do we have for the MySQL? Up MySQL Java connector, that's what you want. And let's have any version, 5.1.3, 3.1, whatever it is, and then just copy it. So once you have all these dependencies properly configured with the version, and what you need to do is nothing. So far you have mentioned that okay, I need this, 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 and this. That's it. Not those individual 25 jars, but just this few dependencies that you need. Now it's the task of Maven to figure out what are the jars available for this, or what are different jars available for this dependency, and then bring all those together, keep it or put in the class path for this one. So how to ask Maven to do that? Because you have already configured the pom.xml, well, just right click on this one, go to Maven and say update project. Then it will ask you, okay, update, force update, and then okay, and then you will see it will start downloading all the dependencies, and it will put somewhere in the Java resources. Let me just refresh the page. So inside the target, okay, just to see where are these, just go to build path, right click, configure build path, and you will see Maven dependencies are already there. Go to libraries and expand it. Yep, it brought all of the libraries available for your purpose. So of course you have this 2.8 different versions, of the Jersey, of course 2.3.2 for the JSON libraries, and then MySQL that you asked 5.1.31. So yep, it brought all of these different jars for you, and it has already placed them in your class path. So yeah, pretty good. So this is the initial setup that we need for a Jersey application, including JSON as well. And then these are the specific version that I have tested so far. And since I am also using in my production, so you are safe to use this for your project as well. No issues as of now. So yep, this is the case. I have one question, I think, from someone asking for, is Jersey scalable? Yes, sir. I'm using for General Motors application, so of course it is scalable. So I have dependencies properly taken care of. Where is my list? So yeah, this is done. This is also done. I have created the table. I have written almost created the table and put the data. I just need to configure all this and then a mechanism to connect to the database. And that's why I was asking how many of you have understanding of JPA or ORM framework or Hibernate or those kind of things, or Eclipse Link. So usually nobody in the batch, well, none of the batch that I had experience in ORM. So I'm gonna go with the traditional approach of connecting to the database using, of course, the driver itself, and then managing everything by your own self, So we'll go with that approach, but we'll start that tomorrow. As of now, what we can do is we can just check if your server is working properly. So restart it. And it looks like, okay, so it is proper, no error here, because you have added few dependencies. So far so good. Now the important thing is, just like all of the Java framework as well, we have to configure this Jersey now. We have just asked only for the dependency, but we have to configure the Jersey. Now what is configure? When I say configuring Jersey, what does that mean? So whenever we use such type of URLs like this in case of Jersey, we have to set up some mechanism where, let's say, user is asked, from the UI you have asked get people. Now Jersey has to know where is the endpoint for this, or where is the function implementing something for get people, or where is something for get person, add person, edit person, different things, right? So your Jersey framework has to know these things beforehand. So where to put that configuration to let Jersey know that, okay, this is the class that you have to use for this purpose. So for that, you have to configure your web XML. So that's why we have the web XML here, and that's why, even though it's optional for J2W project these days, because if you are using Servlet 3.0, but still, since we want to configure the Jersey here, so we'll use web XML to configure here. So what actually we configure? So there is already a default servlet in case of Jersey. We will map it to a particular package on our system or our Java source, so that every time some request comes like this, it will map to a particular file automatically for us. And since these days nobody requires XML configuration, everybody's using annotations, so we will just be using the same thing. So first thing is, you need to configure that default servlet that you have with the Jersey, and tell it when to start and where to look for these implementations. So usually the first thing I do is I create a proper package structure in the Java resources. So right now there is nothing, so I'm going to go and create something like some package. So something like REST, because we are creating a RESTful web service, right? So core.prvn.rest. So this is one of the package that I have. And again, if you remember, if you have worked in Java, then of course you know what are the packages. They are just kind of collections for your classes. And of course, using packages, you can at least properly separate out different concerns, different things, and to different places. So once we have this package, so what we will do, whenever we want the implementation like of this RESTful web service, we will put all these classes inside this package. Of course, we will have some more package, but that's for tomorrow. As of now, we just want to tell Jersey, whenever you have something, look into this package. But before, so for that, we have to ask Jersey for some servlet. So we have to configure actually the default servlet of Jersey. So we will just use the servlet here, tag in the web XML, and then in case of servlet, we have to set up few things like the servlet name. So what is the servlet name? So it's on to you. So I'm just gonna call it servlet REST servlet API or something like that. It's just the name that you can give. But what is the class for that servlet? So that is specific to the Jersey. So we have to use that name, which is org.lastfish.jersey.servlet. I mean, it's a long name, but yeah, now I know. Servlet container, like this. And of course, this is available inside the Jersey framework that you downloaded. So of course, you don't have to write this servlet again. It is already there. You are just configuring it for your web application. That's it. And what you want, actually, you want to initialize this servlet whenever your app is deployed on the server. So in that case, we need to initialize it with some init params, and then few things. So we need, what is the name of the parameter? So let's say the name of the parameter. So we need to tell Jersey that where to find the implementation of all these different classes later on that we will be developing tomorrow. So we already have this package. We'll just give the package value, but the name of the parameter is again specific to Jersey, which is jersey.config.server.provider.packages. Okay, and the value is whatever package that you have. What was that? Okay, and the package in my case is what, pco.prvn.rest. Right, just format it. So this is the initializing parameter, and I want to load this servlet on the startup. So there is another parameter, something called load on startup. Just set the value to 1, and you are asking your server to load this servlet whenever it is deployed, whenever your app is deploying for the first time. Now this is just a servlet thing, or you have just mapped the servlet, or you have configured the servlet. Now for all this mapping that you want to do from your UI, you have to do servlet mapping as well, because you want your UI or anyone from the browser or outside your server to access those particular resources. So usually what I do, just to separate the RESTful service from my other regular service that I already have, or some regular servlets, I prefix, or I just put REST keyword at the start of all the URLs. So my URLs will be actually like starting with the keyword REST, so that I know, okay, this is the REST request, and I can ask Jersey to process it. If it is some other request like login request or some other service request which is not dependent on Jersey, I can use other URL, right? So here, that's what I'm going to ask Jersey. Whenever it finds REST parameter or REST keyword in the URL, which is asked by the UI, then just pass over that execution to Jersey framework, and it will handle it for you. So we have to configure this in the servlet mapping. So there should be servlet mapping here. What do we have inside here? So you have just the servlet name. So we have already written the servlet name, so we want to map this servlet. And what is the URL pattern that we want? So we want, whenever something starts with REST, anything that starts with REST, just map it to this Jersey, and then Jersey will take care of handling how to process all these things. Of course, we will write the code how to handle these specific things, but at least mapping from REST and get people and different things, we will talk this tomorrow in detail, but still. And since I don't have all these pages, I'm gonna remove the list. I just have index.jsp. So this is what you have to configure as far as Jersey is concerned, and of course we have already done for the Maven as well. So it's already there. All the jars are placed properly, so we don't have to worry about that. We have configured the initial or the default servlet of Jersey to let it know that okay, this is the package where we will be writing our code for Jersey, and then only process the URLs which starts with REST. Now you can put any character here, and that depends on your requirements, but just to be clear, I am just putting REST. Now once you do that, go and redeploy or restart your app or the server actually, because there may be some errors if something is not properly configured or some spelling mistake here or different things. So it will throw you all the errors if there are, and looks like everything is proper. And then again in the somewhere it will say okay, this is initialized, different thing. Initializing Jersey application version this is this, and I don't know what is the date here, but yep, that's it. So we have configured Jersey. Tomorrow when we come back, we will write code to connect to the database and also write this RESTful service implementation in Java. Any doubt as of now? And again, you can do all this configuration until this level tonight. After once I upload the video, I'm gonna upload this project as well as the SQL file right away to box.com, and I will name it something called restaurant underscore July 16th because it is incomplete project. Tomorrow we will complete it. So that's it, and then let me just run it if I can see some things. So yep, it runs properly. Okay, any doubt, any issues? So looks like we are good. So what we did, we created a web project, converted that to Maven, figured out dependencies, what we need. We have configured the dependencies here in the bomb.xml. We did right click on the project, said to update Maven project. We went there, updated it, so it will download all the dependencies and put it in the libraries here, all this. And then we configured the web XML for our application so that we let Jersey know that whenever you have REST, any URL starting with the word REST, process it, and this is the package where we will be writing our RESTful code. So that's what we did so far. Simple configuration, and you should also be prepared with this one by tomorrow. And then tomorrow we'll start writing Java code in these packages and connecting to the database and executing something. Okay, so if you don't have any question, I can sign off from today. And then yes, as I said, I will upload this query as well as this project, entire Eclipse project. Any other question? Okay then, bye bye, good night.